Today's Daf Yomi is Nedarim Tes Vav. We're going to start in the bottom of Yudalad Amud Beis. So at the Mishnah tells us Konem Shani Yashin. The person takes a vow and made there. Konem that he will not sleep. Shani Medaber that he will not speak. Shani Mahalach that he will not walk. Or Omer Isha Konem Shani Misham Sheikh that he says he's not going to have marital relations with his wife. He's in violation of the prohibition of the Torah of not violating a neder, not violating a vow. Actually, even though I said he's in violation of the prohibition of the Torah of not violating a vow, the Gemara is going to tell us there are two basic mahalachs to this Gemara. One of them is that when it says below Yachel, it's rabbinic, and that seems to be the maskan of the Gemara, the conclusion of the Gemara. He's not violating it biblically, but he's violating it rabbinically. Gemara is going to first, however, give us a different mahalach to this Gemara. The mahalach is as follows. So the Gemara starts by citing Machokes Amorayim, which Gemara is then going to connect to our Mishnah. The Gemara says, Itmar, Konem Einai B'Sheina Hayom Im Isha Machar. Person says, I'm not allowed to sleep today if I will sleep tomorrow. Meaning to say, if I will end up sleeping today, then I have a shvua or have a neder that I can't sleep today. Meaning to say, today is prohibited by neder, by vow, only if I end up sleeping tomorrow. So tomorrow is the condition and today is the prohibition. So under those circumstances, Amar Rav Yehuda Marav Ayishan Ayom, you're not allowed to sleep today because Shema Yashem Machar. We're concerned you might end up sleeping tomorrow. Rav Nachman disagrees. Rav Nachman says Yashem Ayom, a person is allowed to sleep today. We're not concerned he's going to end up sleeping tomorrow. Moda Rav Yehuda. So the dispute is if you say I take a vow against sleeping today, if I sleep tomorrow, then I won't be able to sleep today. So Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav that you're not allowed to sleep today because maybe you'll fulfill the condition tomorrow and you'll end up sleeping tomorrow, and then retroactively you'll have violated the vow. Whereas Rav Nachman says you could sleep today and then just make sure that you don't sleep tomorrow, and then the condition won't kick in, and then the vow won't kick in. But says the Gemara, Moda Rabbi Yehuda himself would admit, B'omer konem einai b'shena l'machar im isha nayom, sheyashen nayom. Rabbi Yehuda himself would admit that if he says, if I sleep today, then I'm not allowed to sleep tomorrow by a vow. Well then, since the condition is today and the vow is tomorrow, then Rabbi Yehuda would admit that you're allowed to sleep today. Why? What's the basis? Top of Tezvav Amid Aleph. Kilom is dahir b'tenah, aval be'isur is dahir. When do we say that you're not going to be careful to guard the condition? When it's a condition. When do we say you're not going to be able to prevent yourself from sleeping? When that's the condition. But if it was the prohibition itself, then he's going to be able to guard himself. So if he says, if I sleep tomorrow, then I will not have been allowed to have slept today. Well, then tomorrow is the condition, and we're concerned that he won't guard it. And so therefore you can't sleep today, which is the vow. But if he says, if I sleep today, then I'm not allowed to sleep tomorrow, then tomorrow is the vow. And then Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rabbi Yehuda that since that's the isur, that's the prohibition itself and not the condition, then he can be careful. So the Gemara says, well, Tanan, let's go back to our Mishnah. What does our Mishnah say? It says, Konem Shani Yashin, Shani Mahalach, Shani Medaber. Takes a vow against sleeping, speaking, walking. Under those circumstances, we say that the vow takes effect. Now, says the Gemara, let's analyze this statement. Hey, Chidami, what's our Mishnah referring to? If you want to say our Mishnah is referring to Ilema Kidikatani, if you want to say it's like it's literally stated, Shani Yashan, it takes a literal vow against sleeping, for example. Miyabe Nidra. Well, that wouldn't that would not be a vow that would take effect. Tanan, because we learned Chomer b'shvuos, an oath is stricter than a vow. Because a vow can take effect on something that's tangible, and also also something that's intangible, like sleep. But a vow is different, because a vow is sleeping is something that's intangible. So therefore, the vow cannot simply be, I will not sleep. So it must be that what was the vow that he took? Ella de Omer, must be that the vow that he took was Konim Eni B'Shena, that he associates the vow with something tangible. He says, my eyes will not be allowed to sleep. So that must be the vow, and that's why it takes effect. But the Gemara says, well, not so fast. If he doesn't actually give a time to where his vow will take effect, Mishav Kinale ad the Avar Isur Bal Yachel. If he actually didn't give a time limit to this vow or he can't sleep, will we say that the vow takes effect and he's actually going to be in violation of are we going to leave him until he's in violation of the prohibition of violating a vow? That's not the way it works when it comes to such a vow on something like sleep. If a person takes an oath that they're not going to sleep for Shlosha Yamim, for 3 days, we give him lashes and we tell him to go to sleep immediately. So it must be that what we're talking about is that can't be the case, because then you're not in violation of Lo Yachel Dvaro if you take such a vow, an open vow not to sleep, because you're in violation of taking a vow in vain or an oath in vain. It's certainly not Lo Yachel Dvaro. So therefore, what's the scenario of our Mishnah? The scenario of our Mishnah must be Ella de Omer. Gemara gives a third approach to say, maybe a third attempt to explain what's our Mishnah referring to. Ella de Omer. If I sleep today, meaning the condition is today, then I won't be allowed to sleep tomorrow. But it can't be that that's the case. Ha'amris, because we said if the isura, if the actual prohibition of the vow is tomorrow, kol isura misdayer, then he would be careful about that. And even Rav Yehuda, in the name of Rav, says that such a case is you're allowed to sleep today under those circumstances. So it must be El Pshita. It must be that it's the case that Rav Yehuda Amarav or Rav Nachman are arguing about. It must be where he says Konam Einai B'Shena Ayom Konam Einai B'Shena Ayom Im Isha Machar. That if I sleep tomorrow, then I will be prohibited to have slept today. That's the condition is tomorrow, and the prohibition will be today. Vilo Naim Ayom. But if you're not going to sleep today, then when you sleep tomorrow, that if you didn't sleep today, then tomorrow, when you slept, when it comes tomorrow, why is this a violation of Bayachel Dvaro? Because you didn't sleep the day before. So must be Elav, what must be we referring to? Exactly the case, which we said was a dispute, and B'Denaim, and where you slept. So we see from here, Alma Isa Denaim. So we see from here that you're allowed to sleep on the first day. B'Tiyuv to Rav Yehuda. And it's a refutation of Rav Yehuda, because Rav Yehuda says you're not allowed to sleep the first day. But our mission must be referring to a case where if the condition is the next day and the prohibition is the first day, you slept because you were allowed to, and then the next day you violated the prohibition and you violated the vow. So the Gemara gives the obvious answer. Kikatani di'inayim. No, it's not saying you're allowed to sleep the first day. It's saying if you slept the first day and then the next day you slept, then indeed you're in violation of the oath. But that's not saying you're allowed to. Right? We're talking about where you did. The Gemara gives the obvious answer. Ravina gives a different explanation of our Mishnah. Ravina says, "Olam kidakatani." No, we don't have to say that the explanation of our Mishnah is this kind of convoluted ukimta. But rather, what are we talking about? We have to take it at face value. You take a vow, I'm not going to sleep, I'm not going to eat, I'm not going to speak. So if that's the case, why does the vow take effect? Rabbinically, why does the vow take effect? You're taking a vow on something that's not tangible. So Gemara says, Midrabanan, he's in violation of Bal Yachel rabbinically. That's the violation, not a biblical violation, rabbinic violation. So Gemara says, Umiika Bal Yachel midrabanan. Is there really such a thing of Bal Yachel rabbinically? Is there really such a thing? Yes, there is. Vatanya dvar mamutarin ma'acherem nagu bahen isur. We have such a case where if there are things that are permitted, but other people prohibit them as a custom, you're not allowed to allow them in front of them. So therefore, that's the case. That's going to be something that shenemar lo yachel dvaro. So we see lo yachel dvaro refers to something that was rabbinically prohibited. We'll read the Ran. Ran says, Ravina Amar La'olam Kedagatani, Komar, Shani Yashin, Vlo Kamar Eni B'Shin. He said, I take a vow that I'm not going to sleep. And he doesn't say it by associating with something tangible like his eyes. Ta'afagav Shena Im B'Mamish, even though sleeping is not tangible. Ika Ba Yachal Midrabanan. He's in violation of this prohibition rabbinically. To ask Chana Tana, the Tani B'Drabanan Lo Yachal Dvarav. Because we have a Tana who says this, but that rabbinically you're in violation. And therefore, therefore it states in our Mishnah, and therefore he says you're in violation of lo yachel dvaro and doesn't say it's prohibited because it's a rabbinic violation. So that's the point. So now the Gemara says, we're still going to try and prove whether or not Rav Yehuda and Rav, in going back to that dispute between Rav Yehuda and Rav and Rav Nachman, in the case where you say, if I sleep tomorrow, I will be prohibited to have slept today. Rav Yehuda and Rav says, you're not allowed to sleep today because we're worried you're going to violate the condition tomorrow. Whereas Rav Nachman says you can. So we're going to try and prove that Rav Nachman is correct. Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah in Nedarim, we're going to get to this, God willing, in around 40 days, where the Mishnah tells us, Sha'at ne'anetli ada Pesach. The husband says to his wife, I don't want you basically going to your father's home. I'm tired of that. So he says, you're prohibited to have any benefit from me all the way until Pesach. If you're going to go to your father's home before Sukkot, then you will not be allowed to have any benefit from me until Pesach. So he doesn't want her to go, and so he says this oath. So then, Pesach, so let's say she went before Pesach, she went to the father's home, well then, Asr Banaso out of Pesach, then indeed she fulfilled it, she's not allowed to have any benefit all the way until Pesach. So we see from here, Pesach Asura, means to say that if she went to her father's home, she's prohibited. Lo. So we see from here, what's the diuk of the Gemara? That if she went to her father's house before Pesach, then she's going to have any benefit because she fulfilled the condition and the vow is applicable. Meaning to say, what did he say? He said, you're not allowed to have any benefit from me until Pesach if you'll go to your father's home before Sukkot. So if she went before Pesach, she's prohibited. So we see from here that if she went to her father's house before Pesach, she's prohibited to have benefit until Pesach. So the Gemara's inference is Pesach Asura. Then when do we say if she went to her father's home before Pesach, she's prohibited to have any benefit? But if she didn't actually go to the father's home, she wouldn't be prohibited. It's a direct refutation of Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav, because it says that if she hadn't gone to her father's home, she'd be permitted to. If she'd be permitted to have benefit, and we're not worried that she's going to violate the condition later. So Amar Rabbi Abba, no. If she went to her father's home before Pesach, she's prohibited to have any benefit, and indeed, if she has benefit, she's going to end up getting lashes. But if she didn't go, asura ba'alma. But if she didn't go, she's prohibited. But if to have benefit, but she wouldn't get lashes. There's a dispute between Ran and the Rambam. I translated like the Ran that she gets the lashes. The Rambam says no, he gets the lashes, because why would she be getting the lashes? She didn't make the vow. But the Ran says, why would he be getting the lashes? He's not the one who violated the conditions of the vow. So it's a question, who's going to be the one to get the lashes here? Again, trying to disprove Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rav. Ema Seifa. What about the next clause? Achara Pesach. Let's say she went to her father's home after Pesach. Again, she still was not allowed to go until Sukkot, but she went to the father's home after Pesach. Then she's in violation of, because she went to her father's, because she had benefit prior to Pesach, she's in violation of Ba Yachel Dvaro. And if she didn't have any benefit before Pesach, then why is she in violation of the vow? So it's obvious, El Pshita Disani, she must have had benefit from before Pesach. So we see from here, Alma Masani, we see it's a refutation of Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav, because she was allowed to have benefit before Pesach, even though the condition was still floating out there until Sukkot. But on top of Tezvavam Abayz, but to Rav Yehuda, isn't this a refutation of Rav Yehuda? Mar says no. Kikotani, what it's saying is, the E is honey, if she would have had benefit, if she goes to her father's home before Sukkot, if she would have had benefit from her husband before Pesach, she would be in violation. But it's not telling us that she was allowed to. Tanan, the Gemara is again going to challenge Rabbi Yehuda from this same Mishnah. It says in that Mishnah, Sha'at nehenesli adachag. And here it says, he flips it. He says, you're not allowed to benefit from me all the way until Sukkot. Not all the way until Pesach, all the way until Sukkot. If you go to your father's home until Pesach, you will not be allowed to have benefit from me all the way until Sukkot. Let's say she went to her father's home before Pesach, then asura ba'anaso adachag. Then she's not allowed to benefit all the way until Sukkot. Umuteres lelech achar Pesach. But she can go to her father's home after Pesach, because he only says you're only not allowed to go until Pesach, but after Pesach she's allowed to go. But the Gemara says, let's draw the inference from this. What's the inference? The Gemara says, Hocha Asura. If she went to her father's home, she's prohibited. Lo Hocha, but if she didn't go to her father's home, she would be permitted to have benefit all the way until Sukkot. Lo Hocha. So we say, what is it? And so isn't this a refutation of Rabbi Yehuda? Because it says that only if she went, but it means she's allowed to go. So isn't this a refutation of Rabbi Yehuda? So Gemara says Rav. So it says Rav, no. Amar Rav hu adin da'afilu lo hocha asura. It would be even if she didn't go, she's prohibited to have benefit. But what it's teaching us, hocha asura v'loka. If she went, it's prohibited and she gets lashes. Lo hocha, but if she didn't go, asura ba'ama, she's just prohibited to have benefit. Okay, the Gemara is going to again challenge Rabbi Yehuda. This time not from the Mishnah in Nedarim, but this time from a Brisa. Meisvei, what does the Brisa say? Kikarzu alayayom. This loaf of bread is Kikarzu alayayom. This loaf of bread is prohibited upon me to eat. Im elach makom poni. If I'm going to, it's exactly, very similar to the case of our Mishnah here, or the way we try to explain our Mishnah. It says this loaf of bread will be prohibited upon me today if I'm going to go to such a place tomorrow. Meaning to say the condition is tomorrow and the prohibition is today. So Rabbi Yehuda Marav would say you're not allowed to eat, we would think he would say you're not allowed to eat that loaf of bread. And Reb Nachman would say you can eat the loaf of bread, because the condition is tomorrow. So, Achal, if he ate the bread, he's not allowed to go the next day. So we see from here that he could eat the bread. Isn't this a refutation of Rav Yehuda? So Gemara says, Mi katani ochal. Doesn't say he can eat the bread. Achal katani. It says he ate the bread. So therefore, he did it already. So therefore, it's not a refutation. The ki achal hareza b'bal yelech. So if he ate it, then the next day he's going to be in violation of, if he goes, he's prohibited, he's not allowed to go, because if he goes, he's in violation of the vow. So the Gemara says, But let's challenge us from the continuation of the brisa, because it says in the next clause of the brisa, what did it say in the brisa? It said, Holach, that if he went the next day, then retroactively we're going to say that the day before he was in violation. And so the Gemara says, Mahalech lo, it means he's not allowed to go. It means only if he went. Kasha Rabbi Yehuda, this is difficult according to Rabbi Yehuda. Why is it different according to Rabbi Yehuda? I mean, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it should have said in the brisa an additional law. It should have said in the brisa, Mahalech. It should have said in the brisa, ve'eno b'ba'al yachel dvaro. It should have said in the brisa, the next day he can go and he won't be in violation of Ba'al Yachel, because Rabbi Yehuda says he's not allowed to eat the day before. So therefore he didn't eat it. So the next day he can walk and he doesn't have to worry that he's in violation of Ba'al Yachel. Why does it say if he went, he's in violation? That assumes that he ate the day before. So this is a question on Rabbi Yehuda's interpretation. So Amrocha Rabbi Yehuda, no, what would Rabbi Yehuda say? Rabbi Yehuda would say, no. Rabbi Yehuda would say, really, it should have said Mahalach, that he can walk the next day and he's not going to be in violation of anything because the day before he hadn't gone. But rather, I did the Katani Reisha Achal, Dulo Misnile Ochal. Therefore, but since in the first clause it says he ate, because it doesn't want to say he's allowed to eat. So Tani Seifa. So therefore, the next clause says if he walked, if he walked, then he's going to be potentially in violation of Vayachel Dvaro from the day before. That's all it's saying. It's just borrowing the same language. So, okay. So now we're up to the next clause of our Mishnah to interpret. The Mishnah had said, that if he says, I'm not allowed to have relations with you, he's in violation of Vayachel Dvaro. Meaning to say he's not allowed to have relations with his wife if he says that if I have relations with you, it's prohibited to me by a korban. The Gemara says, why? I don't understand. So the Gemara at first is basically understanding that the husband is saying that he's not allowed, he's prohibiting his body upon his wife, that she's not allowed to have any benefit from him. The Gemara is asking, how could the husband prohibit his wife by a vow from having relations? She already is basically, there is a lien, so to speak, on her, on their marriage. She has a lien, midiaraisa. Biblically speaking, she's allowed to have relations with him. And in fact, he's required to. It says that the husband is required to provide his wife with these three areas, with food, clothing, and intimacy. And so therefore, the husband is obligated to give his body to his wife. And so therefore, how can he make a vow that she's not allowed to benefit from his body? So the Gemara says, well, that's not the vow that he made. What's the vow that he made? But Omer, he says, no, I will not have any benefit from your intimacy upon me. That he prohibits himself from having intercourse with her. And so therefore he doesn't want to benefit from the intimacy, and so therefore he's allowed to do that. So therefore the vow will take effect, and therefore he's not going to be allowed to have relations with her. The Amar Rav Kahana, as Rav Kahana says, because Rav Kahana says that, what are we talking about? Rav Kahana says as follows: Tashmishi alecha, that if the woman says to her husband that she says that she's not allowed to have relations with the husband, meaning to say that the husband can't benefit from her, then the vow does not take effect. We force her to have intercourse with the husband, because he has a lien, so to speak, on her body because of their marriage. But if she words it as follows, that I will not have any benefit from the intercourse with you, then they're not allowed to, then the husband is not allowed to have the relations with her because we're going to say because we don't feed something to somebody that's prohibited. And since she's not allowed to benefit, it's almost like it's feeding her something that's prohibited. I just want to say this, you have a question, but there's a classic question here. How would the how would she be allowed to prohibit upon herself the benefit from tashmish? We have a basic idea. Why is it prohibited? We have a concept, mitzvahs lav lahanis nitnu, that from a mitzvah you don't get any benefit. And so therefore, this is not considered benefit. So the classic answer to this question is that the mitzvah, you're not getting any benefit from the mitzvah, but from the physicality associated with the mitzvah, that's what you're getting benefit from. And remember, we learned this Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, that if you say you're not going to go into this water, to this mikvah, to this spring, then in the summer, you're not allowed to go in because you're benefiting from the cool of the mikvah. But in the winter, you would be allowed to go in. Okay, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to take Jeff's question in just a second. Okay.